Good morning, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying your Saturday morning so far. This is MYG Jeffy T 3285, and I'm just here to do a quick update on the injury statuses concerning Jeff McNeil and Eduardo Escobar, who unfortunately had to depart the game last night against the Philadelphia Phillies due to injuries. Now, last night's game, we all know, the New York Mets ended up having their 6-game winning streak broken by the Philadelphia Phillies, as the Philadelphia ended up winning the game 2-1 in the final in 10 innings. Now, that's part of the story, but the unfortunate thing is the New York Mets ended up losing a couple of their players in the process. Jeff McNeil ended up departing the game with a lacerated thumb, while Eduardo Escobar departed the game with an oblique issue. So I think out of the two injuries, when it comes to these two guys, the more serious one to be concerned about right now is probably Eduardo Escobar, because we all know that oblique injuries can be the type of injuries that do linger, and they could be something that could last a little bit longer. So you have to wonder if Eduardo Escobar might have suffered either a mild oblique issue or even a more severe one. If it's a mild one, it still might be a process where he's not going to be able to come back immediately. You could throw him on the injured list for at least 10 days, and then hopefully he's going to be able to be back. But if he did suffer some sort of more major injury going forward, so you have to think that maybe he's going to be out for a certain amount of time, which is not the worst thing in the world. I mean, you don't want to lose a player like Eduardo Escobar, who's good depth on the roster, but at the same time, you still have the depth on the roster that you could not, it won't impact your team as much going forward. Now, in terms of Jeff McNeil, he's like he's the heartbeat of that team. Besides Pete Alonso and Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo, you always think of Jeff McNeil as one of the key players on that roster. So you hope that his lacerated finger is not as severe. He's going to be able to get it stitched up. If you have to, you throw him on the injured list at least so he gets that healed up real quickly, and then after 10 days or so, he's able to come right back and he'll be okay. Now, one of the other things I want to talk about real quickly is talk about talk about how the Mets should win this year, and how it really means a lot, because even going into next year, there's a lot of unknowns, because the New York Mets do have a lot of free agents going into 2023. So you figure that this is the year that the Mets should be able to get it done. Because next year you have a lot of guys that are going to be wanting new contracts, as well as you have a lot of guys that are going to be going into free agency next year. I mean, you have, case in point example, you have Brandon Nimmo, who's going to be a free agent next year. You have Eduardo Escobar is going to be a free agent. You have Edwin Diaz is going to be a free agent. You know, Jacob deGrom is probably going to opt out. He's going to be a free agent. You have Jeff McNeil, as well as Pete Alonso are going to be asking for new contracts. You have Carlos Carrasco is going to be a free agent. You have Chris Bassitt's going to be a free agent. You have, as well as Taijuan Walker, who's going to be a free agent. You got a lot of players right now on the New York Mets that are going to be free agents going into 2023. So the New York Mets, this is the perfect opportunity right now to win, because you have this full team intact. And then we all could say, we have the richest owner in sports. We have Stevie Cohen. He's going to throw the money out there. He's going to want to keep this team intact. It might be easier said than done, because you do want to throw out 50 to 100 plus $1 million contracts for all these players. I mean, you got to think reasonable too, because there is a tax threshold in Major League Baseball, so you can't just keep throwing out 100, 200, $300 million contracts for multiple players. So there's going to be some guys on the New York Mets that will not be here, and maybe it is a reason that some of the players on maybe it's the reason why the New York Mets did not trade some of their top prospects. Why you still didn't trade like a Mark Vientos or a Brendan Beatty or Brett Beatty or a Francisco Alvarez, Ronnie Mauricio, Brad Allen, Alex Ramirez. Because the New York Mets might be looking at the fact that some of these guys they have on this roster probably won't be here next year, because of the fact that they're not going to be able to pay everybody. So what you can end up doing is that you can eventually pick and choose who you think is the most important and most vital to this organization going forward. And then you just let those guys go. And, I mean, you keep the guys that you think are just irreplaceable right now. And the others you maybe decide to let go. And then you can use some of your farm system players to take over eventually that are ready. So there's going to be a lot of interesting decisions for the New York Mets to make after 2022. And they're going to have a lot of players to decide from, and who they think is just vital that you cannot let go after the season, and which players, you might have to make the tough decision on. Maybe this is it. maybe we just can't sign. It's a very tough case of we just cannot sign everybody. Some guys, unfortunately, they have to be let go. So you're going to have to pick and choose which guys stay and which guys go. But that's a decision for Billy Epler to make. That's a decision for Sandy Alderson to make. And obviously, it's going to be up to Stevie Cohen, because he's going to be the one shelling out the big dollars on which players he thinks are worth keeping around long term and which players, might just unfortunately be the case of there's just not enough money right now to keep everybody. So that's just the recent updates I just want to give everybody in terms of Jeff McNeil and Eduardo Escobar. Both of them had to depart the game last night. Jeff McNeil suffered a lacerated thumb. Eduardo Escobar suffered a oblique injury. Hopefully neither of them is serious. It sounds like McNeil might need stitches. He might have to be on the IL, if anything. Going to see how it plays out. Eduardo Escobar, you got to hope it's not the severe oblique issue going forward. If that's the case, you probably have to miss a pretty long time if that's the case. Hopefully it's a minor one. Maybe just throw him on the DL for 10 days, see how he feels coming off. But it's just my video for this morning on the New York Mets, the injury statuses, as well as, you have to think about free agency going into next year and what players the New York Mets might have to decide on who they're going to have to keep and what players they unfortunately might have to let go. So if you like this video, please hit the like button below. Subscribe if you haven't already to NYGJeffyT3285 for more breaking news, updates, and chatter surrounding the New York Mets, New York Giants, Brooklyn Nets, WWE Wrestling, as well as food for thought. Turn on the bell for notifications of the next video or short that drops surrounding the New York Mets. And I want you guys to leave your comments below on what you think about the statuses of Jeff McNeil and Eduardo Escobar in terms of their injury issues, as well as I really want you to think about when it comes to 2023 free agency, because before you know it, that's going to be coming right around the corner, because November, December, January, that's not that far around. So you're going to have to start thinking about what players you want to see this Mets team keep long term. So, it's just an idea to think about. I know we're enjoying the ride right now with the New York Mets, having this phenomenal season. We're thinking big when it comes to possibly winning the World Series, but you got to think about the future after 2022 as well. But I hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and evening. Take it easy, everyone, and let's go New York Mets. All you have to do is you gotta believe in our New York Mets.